Tom Brady's obviously had a blessed and wonderful life, but I think it was Schefter who pointed this out on Twitter. Given how long he's been in the league and how often Michigan gets whooped by Ohio State, he has to have paid off more of these bets than any player in NFL history, right? Like, I mean, he's got to be the all-time leader in paying off these dumb locker room bets. I mean, Chase Winovich gets in on it, too. Brady looks not happy there.
Oh, my gosh.
That was probably after the game, too, yesterday.
Yeah. Listen, Candy's in a tough spot on the... It was during the week. It was before the game.
Of course it was. Time for stories to start your morning. Last night, the Rams handled the Seahawks 28-12. Jared Goff threw for 293 yards and 2 touchdowns. How about Todd Gurley with 113 yards from scrimmage? Kenny, how impressive were the Rams last night?
Really impressed by the Rams, particularly their defense, but then seeing what Jared Goff was able to do, especially early on in that game, engineering 2 touchdown drives to open up that game, and they started out with a 14-3 lead. I thought that was the difference in the game, getting up early on the Seattle Seahawks and trying to force them to be more one-dimensional.
I thought that Rams defense played great, forcing Russell Wilson into one of his worst games of the year. I think people are gonna all of a sudden start getting more bullish on the Rams than they should, and people are gonna start selling Seattle a little earlier than they should. Seattle still has it all in front of them. Week 17 against San Francisco is going to be one of the biggest games of the NFL season. Will decide that division. And I feel like the Rams, it's going to be a season of what-ifs. Looks like they're going to finish this year 1 game outside of returning to the playoffs after last year finishing 1 game shy of winning the Super Bowl.
All right, on to Lamar Jackson. He led the Ravens to a 24-17 win over a good Bills defense. Tossed 3 touchdowns, added 40 rush yards. Lamar joined Mike Vick as the only quarterbacks in NFL history to post 1,000 rushing yards in a single season. Kenny, what'd you make of Lamar's day yesterday?
Well, I thought it was a solid day by Lamar. They did just enough offensively to get the win. So often when we're talking about the Ravens winning games, it's because of their offense. But yesterday it had to be because of the defense. Held the Bills to 1-3 in the red zone, 4-17 on 3rd down. And then that defensive front for the Ravens, 6 sacks, 12 quarterback hits. They went after Josh Allen, especially late in that game when they had to have it. I mean, after the DPI by Marlon Humphrey, they had to get 4 stops on consecutive downs. They ended up coming up with it. Of course, Marcus Peters making the game-sealing play by deflecting that ball that was targeting Cole Beasley. But really impressive performance from the Ravens D.
Old school Ravens defense, old school Ravens victory where the defense carries the way. And because of their win and New England's loss, Baltimore's now like 96% to get the #1 overall seed in the NFC. They're in such great position because they're now 2 games clear of New England because they have the head-to-head. They don't have the head-to-head with Kansas City, but they're 2 games clear of Kansas City as far as 2 losses to 4. If they'd have lost yesterday, it would have squandered what New England gave them later in the day. So a great win despite Lamar not playing great against a very tough defense.
All right, moving on. You guys remember when the Texans beat the Patriots pretty handily a week ago, and many had them as one of the teams to beat in the AFC? Well, yesterday they played the Broncos, and the Broncos didn't care about that thing I just said. Jumping out to a 38-3 lead, Deshaun Watson struggled all day, tossing 2 picks. Nick, how shocking was this for Houston?
Being down 38-3 was shocking. Them blowing a game after a huge win was not shocking to me. This is the drum I keep beating about a talented but poorly coached Houston Texans team that now all of a sudden finds itself, after trading away all these draft picks to go all in on this season, tied with the Titans in the division with 2 of the final 3 games being against Tennessee. The credit to Drew Lock in Denver for playing great, but if you fall down 38-3 at home against against anybody, much less a non-playoff team, it means you were not ready to play. The Texans talked all week how Coach O'Brien wouldn't let them have a letdown after the New England game, before the Titans game, kind of a sandwich game. It's exactly what we saw on Sunday.
This is one of those all wins and losses count the same, but they're not all created equal. The fact that you had the kind of performance that you did at home against the Patriots, and you follow that up with this performance against an inferior competition, inferior team in the Denver Broncos, that to me is unacceptable. They gifted away a golden opportunity to take control and be that 3rd seed in the AFC, you know, right behind Baltimore in New England. But the fact is now they're looking up at the Kansas City Chiefs as well. And you're talking about potentially having to play the Tennessee Titans in the Tennessee Titans or the Buffalo Bills in the 1st round of the playoffs. If you get in, that could be ugly.
And the if you get in is now in question.
Yeah.
The Chiefs finally beat the Patriots at Foxborough. It wasn't without some controversy, though. Travis Kelce's fumble was blown dead, erasing what would likely have been a scoop and score. And the ensuing drive, N'Keal Harry was ruled out of bounds when he actually scored a touchdown, but the Patriots were out of challenges. A lot happened in this one. Kenny, do you think the Patriots have a legit gripe with the officials after yesterday's game?
No, they absolutely have a gripe, Jenna. I mean, just the officiating, Jerome Boger's crew, they have to be better. You saw some gaps in the second half of that game. I mean, if you want to talk about the Sammy Watkins slant where Bill Belichick challenged the spot on third down, I think that was up in question. Clearly, he didn't reach the yard line to gain, but they gave them the first down anyway. Then you look at that same possession. That was when you had the Travis Kelce fumble on the 3rd and 2 crossing route that he had to catch. I mean, Devin McCourty pops it out. Stephon Gilmore picks it up, and it looks like it's going to be a scoring opportunity, but the refs blow it dead. They said the runner was down by contact where clearly the ball was out. To me, those are situations where you have to let it play out. I mean, we saw this earlier in the season in that Rams-Saints game where they didn't let it play out, and it was clear that it could have been a game-changing play. The N'Keal Harry one was egregious, and then you had a non-call on a DPI by Kendall Fuller on Philip Dorsett on that last Patriots possession. You could have been talking about having 1st and goal at the 5-yard line as opposed to ended up having that 4th and 3 where they couldn't complete that pass to Julian Edelman. But in all of those situations, you have to look at the officiating and you have to be critical of it because you feel like they cost the Patriots in terms of some pivotal moments in that game last night.
All right, I'm going to take a deep breath here because this is, to me, so rich and borderline unbelievable. The reaction to, for the first time in my memory, some tough calls going against New England. And it's raining here in New York City this morning. It actually is just all the tears pouring down from the greater New England area from all the crying that's been going on over the last 12 hours about this. So let's talk about all of these things. Okay? The fumble should have been not whistled dead, no doubt about it. Now, the idea that that was going to be a scoop and score, we showed the highlight. The fastest player in the league is already ahead of Stephon Gilmore, forcing him towards the sideline. Maybe that would have been a touchdown. Maybe it wouldn't have been. But, hey, Patriots had a challenge, their final challenge. More on that in a moment. And they get the ball. It's a mistake. I agree. It shouldn't have happened. The N'Keal Harry miss is an egregious miss by the officials. And the NFL, luckily, about 20 years ago, put a process in place to fix egregious misses by the officials. They're called challenges. It's important you don't blow them like Belichick did on a very questionable spot challenge. Spot challenges, you have to be certain you're correct. He risked it, and that's why that play wasn't challengeable. Belichick wasted a challenge like Andy Reid very often does and gets killed for. That's why they couldn't challenge it. Now, should the refs have made the right call? They should have, but they didn't. There's a process in place to fix it. Patriots had squandered it. Despite all that, they have a 1st and goal from the 3, and they can't punch it in. And by the way, so let's just say the refs cost them 4. I do think the Patriots lost by 7. But it sucks. Listen. It sucks to have the calls go against you. It sucked early in the game when the Patriots clearly roughed Patrick Mahomes. They threw a flag for it. Then the refs got together and said, we're not going to call it. It sucks when there's a phantom blindside block called. That was called on the Chiefs' left guard. It sucks when there's a huge play and there's a phantom holding penalty called on the best right tackle in football, Mitchell Schwartz. And it sucks when you lose the penalty yardage battle 136-25. Because in this game where the Patriots...
Say it again?
There's 136 penalty yards on Kansas City.
136?
25 on the Patriots. But none of those things for the Chiefs hurt as badly as what happened to New England. And I would just tell New England, I don't know, like, who could relate to what feels like egregious calls stealing a game from you? I mean, this was really bad. I don't know if it was as bad as 1/4 of the entire tripping penalties of the year being called phantomly against you. Ask the Cowboys about that. Or last year in the AFC Championship game when a phantom roughing the passer penalty kept a Patriots touchdown drive alive in the 4th quarter. But the scoop and score is terrible.
Yes.
You know what's worse than a scoop and score being whistled dead in Week 14 in the NFL?
Having it happen in the
AFC Championship game. So Patriot fans, as much as this hurts, you guys remember the Super Bowl you went to a couple years ago when you were down 10 and would have been down 17 against Jacksonville, but the refs whistled it dead? Or, I mean, I don't even have to go back 20 years to when we invented the tuck rule. Nobody ever heard of the tuck rule. So, hey, Pat fans, I feel your pain, because the whole league has been feeling this pain, except for New England fans, for 20 years, and in a game where they have 111 fewer penalty yards than their opponent, it still finally feels like, man, it kind of went against us. That's the NFL in 2019, guys, and welcome to it, New England Patriot fans.
No, here's the thing. I don't understand the whole penalty issue, because I understand the refs call the penalties, but it's a situation where the Patriots played a cleaner game in terms of not making any mistakes than the Chiefs. You can't be upset that the calls didn't go the Patriots' way just because the Chiefs were penalized more.
Well, I mean, they threw a penalty for roughing Patrick Mahomes. They clearly landed on it. They then got together and then didn't.
The Chase Winovich one.
Yeah, I know. And then they shoved him out of bounds